it's Raquel Reed. I am here to talk about one of my favorite books, probably my second favorite book after Looking for Alaska. And I don't have the words to explain how much love I have for this book, but it's a video, so I guess we're gonna have to try. And this book that I'm talking about is Paper Towns. I absolutely loved reading this book, and I just finished the movie last night, and I got so emo after watching it. I cried for a little bit. I took a shower after watching it, and I cried in the shower for a little bit because I was just like, I want to be Margot Roth Spiegelman so bad, and I want to be Quentin, and I want to have friends like Ben and Radar and Lacey, and oh my gosh, I had so many feelings. And this was like right after I pulled an all-nighter too. I pulled an all-nighter, and then the next day I watched Paper Towns, and I think that was one of the reasons why I was so sad and why I was all in my feels. But definitely this book, okay. Let me just talk about this book. Okay, first off, if you have not read this book, you have to read this book, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. It's about this kid named Quentin, and or Q, is what his friends call him. And he's like this shy, like not very adventurous kid. Isn't very like spontaneous and like cool and like confident. And he's in love with this girl named Margot Roth Spiegelman. And he's been in love with her ever since they were kids. And she lives like right next door or like something like that. Basically, his like window is like parallel to her window, her bedroom window. So it's like one of those typical like girl next door type situations. Well, anyways, he has this massive crush on Margot Roth Spiegelman, and basically, she becomes this mystery, and I think that's all I'm gonna say about it, because I can't really say much about the book that'll spoil anything, but he spends the entirety of the book trying to figure her out, because even though he's been in love with her, he doesn't know that much about her. And she's one character too. Like she pulls pranks, she runs away, she's like this adventurous type girl, and she's very popular. She's dating the coolest kid in school, the biggest you know what, like the big wig, you know, and she's got like so many friends and like all of this, but she's also like super like basket Casey, you know, like from the Breakfast Club. Margot is kind of like the basket case plus the princess, you know what I mean? She's kind of like, you know, those two in a mix. And anyway, so in the book we learn a lot about her, and I adore her. I adore Margot Roth Spiegelman. Alright, so if you have not read the book, I suggest you leave. I want to start with the very beginning. The whole like 9 problems that they all have to figure out, and Margot is trying to make him a badass and all those types of things. I loved that. So I started reading this book, like I first picked up this book at like 10 o'clock at night, and I didn't finish reading it, but like I went to bed at like 11:30 that night, and I was about 100 pages in. And I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to finish this book because I love it. And let me just tell you, the very beginning caught my attention so quickly. Like, I loved it. I loved the whole idea of them just running around town, pulling pranks on everyone, especially Jace. I hate Jace, and I hate Becca. They just seem like the type of people that like are so popular in school, and you can't do anything about it because they're just a couple of bitches. And I hate them, but I loved the fact that Margot and Q got to pull a prank on them, and I absolutely loved that. And then Lacey during this whole prank extravaganza type thing, we learned that Lacey is kind of a bitch too. But what I really liked about this book is that even though in the beginning we learned that Lacey was kind of being rude and mean towards Margot, and Margot was just not having it, I liked that she becomes more of a main character throughout the book, and we learn about her. We learn all these sides to her. She's not just 2D anymore. Like we see her personality and like her humor and her looks. And I love Lacey so much. Like I kind of just like want to give her a hug and be like, I love you, let's be best friends, you know, like one of those types of situations. The adventure was so cool for me. I also liked that they lived in Florida, because then like they were all like, oh yeah, I see Disney World or Disneyland, or I don't know what's in Florida, but I was just like, you could just see that. Like I live in Minnesota, there's nothing in Minnesota. And I live like in the southern part of it, so like I can't be like, I see Mall of America, because for one, nobody really cares about Mall of America because it's Minnesota, because nobody cares about Minnesota, and two, I live in southern Minnesota, and so it's all just plains here. Like there's no height that I can climb up to and be like, I see that, you know? But they're in Florida, like they can see everything. I thought that was cool. That was, for a Minnesotan, that's cool to me, you know? Back to the story. Since Radar's parents have the world's biggest collection of Black Santas. I read that and I was like, what? Excuse me? I was so confused. I was like, Black Santas, okay, I read that right. And I thought that was so funny, because you don't really put that in a book. Also, the fact that Radar's name is Radar, I was like, okay, that's a cool name. Ben and Q were kind of going through like a little rough patch, because let's be honest, if you're in a group of friends of 3, that is the hardest thing to do. Take it from me, from personal experience. I'm in a group friend of 3, and I love my friends. I'm gonna be honest, I love my friends, but also it's really hard, you know, it's really hard not to be the third wheel. And so, Q was kind of experiencing that. He was all like, oh, Ben's not doing this, he's being an asshole, so I'm gonna text Radar. And then Radar was like, you know what, Q, Ben's not the problem here, you know? And let's be honest, I am so much like Q. Like, Q hates prom. He doesn't care about anything. He focuses on like one thing so much, like in all of this. He doesn't really care about anything, and honestly, that is me with my friends. And my friends are exactly like Ben and Radar. Like, they care about prom so much, and they're their own selves, you know, in like a weird way, and you're just totally different. And I understand Q on such a personal level. Like, I was reading this book, and I just like I literally laughed out loud, and I was like, wow. I loved the strings idea. I love the fact that Margot capitalizes like randomly, like there's no like rule of capitalization for her. It is so sweaty in my house right now. What the heck? I literally have like, oh my god, I hate this. Sorry. I like the strings idea, the capitalization. I like the whole band room thing, because honestly, same. They like sit in the band room like every morning before school, and I found that so relatable. Literally, me and my friends down here in Minnesota literally do the exact same thing. I told my friend, I called her and I was like, yo, we gotta hit up John Green right now and tell him that Paper Towns is coming to life because I hate prom, Q hates prom, his friends are obsessed with prom, my friends are obsessed with prom. They all sit in the band room, we all sit in the choir room before school, like all of these little concepts, and I was just like, it's all the same. But like, yeah, so I thought that was something really funny and relatable. We get to sort of the end of the book. They do all of these weird like things, like Q is trying to look for her, and he spends prom night in the like the abandoned building that Margot was like in or whatever. And then they meet up with these friends of Margot's, and they're all like blah blah blah, and basically things kind of just like happen, you know. And then we get to the end of the book, well, near the end, when they're on the road trip. And I think the road trip part of the book, like the very beginning and the very like endish, were probably my favorite parts of the book, because in the road trip they're like, they have only so many hours to find Margot, and they're driving like hundreds and like 1,000 miles away just to see if Margot, just to bring her home, and they have only like 12 hours to do it, or 24 hours to do it, sorry, 24 hours to get there. And so Ben, Radar, Q, and Lacey are all in this minivan, and they're driving all the way to New York from Orlando. And some of my favorite parts is when Ben has to go to the bathroom, so he pees in 2 beer bottles, and which I thought was the funniest part, because he was all like, guys, I gotta pee, like I'm gonna die, and they're all like, just hold it, and he's like, for how long? And then they're like, 4 hours. And literally when I read that, I was like, could I hold my pee in for 4 hours? Probably not. And I thought that was weird, and the fact that he literally held it for like 3 hours straight, and I was like, how do you hold in your pee for 3 hours? How do you just do that? Yeah, I thought that was weird. And they get to this gas station, and they all have 6 minutes to get everything they need. They need to get food, they need to go to the bathroom, they need to fill up gas, all under 6 minutes or so. And they do it, they start leaving, and they're driving, and kind of like the chapters of the book are like the hours, so it's like hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, and so on. And in one of the hours, they almost die. They almost get into a car crash. And Q is driving, and they just find like cows in the middle of the road, I guess, and so they swerve and they almost get into a crash, but basically the minivan is like completely ruined, but it's still drivable basically. And so Q was all like, oh my god, we almost died, blah blah blah, and he has this anxiety attack, and that's kind of like a thing. It kind of like reverts back to like the very beginning of the book where Q had an anxiety attack, and Margot was like, bro, are you okay? And I was just like, relatable, same. But he was like having this anxiety attack, and he's like, we could have died, like my whole life like flashed before my eyes. And Lacey was all like, oh my goodness, like we were sick. The ending made me so emo, just like the movie. The ending, I don't have like words to explain how much I loved the ending. The ending was just kind of like, just like, you know, those kind of feelings. I don't really have like anything like that I can form into words to explain how much I felt during the end of the book, because Q finds Margot. They all find Margot, and she's living in like this like shack, this like building, barn basically, or whatever. And they're all mad at her. They're like, why did you leave, blah blah blah. And then she's like, I didn't want you to find me. And then Q's all confused because she left clues, because that's what she does. She leaves clues when she leaves, just because she like either wants to be found or whatever. She wants to see if someone can find her. And so they found her, but the whole purpose of this getaway, this runaway to New York, was that she didn't want anyone to find her. And she was all like, I did not set those clues, like obviously like blah blah blah, I like planned this all out, but I didn't want you to find me. I wanted you to know I was okay. And Q was all mad at her, and he was like, well, I drove all of this way, and you're not gonna come home with us, and blah blah blah. And Margot was all like, I'm not going with you, like I have so much to do, like I'm so close to living the life that I want to live. And he kind of just takes it. He kind of understands her in a way, even though him and her are completely different people. Like she wants to live a life full of adventure and like adventure. And he is kind of like, he likes routine. He wants college, he wants marriage, he wants kids, he wants to live a routine life filled with all of the normal things that you do as an adult. And she doesn't want that. She wants to be big, you know? She wants to make her life epic. And so they kind of walk separate ways at the end of the book, but they kiss. Like twice. They kiss twice. And it just ends like that. I was so mad. Guys, I cannot tell you how mad I was. I read it and I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Because they kiss and then they walk away. What? Okay, so they kiss, they walk away, and then Q was all like, oh, I can see her crying, because her shoulders kind of just like collapse. And I was like, what? She's crying? And nobody's gonna, what? And then she comes back, then they hug, they kiss, and then they just look at each other. And then Q says, yes, I can see her almost perfectly in this cracked darkness. What? That is it? That's the last sentence of the entire book. And I was so emo, guys. I was so emo. Anyways, I finished it, and I sat there and I stared at the wall for like, I don't know, does the amount of time that I stared at the wall even matter? No, I stared at the wall and I thought about the book for like an hour, and I can't stop thinking about the book because I'm sad over it, and I had to make this video to let everyone know that I'm sad over it. Basically, yeah. And the movie was good too. The movie was like, I expected the movie to follow the plot of the book very easily, because the book is like contemporary and really like they could have like shot so many perfect scenes of the book, but they didn't. They like left things out. Like, for instance, like in the movie they don't go to SeaWorld, and I was upset about that. I was like, okay, so in the movie Q and Margot just don't like get freaked out by Snake. All right, fine. They don't break into SeaWorld. I'm cool with that, but really I wasn't. Anyways, I know that guy. How quarantine be like. Anyways, so I finished the book, I finished the movie. I give the book an A+. An A++. I loved this book so much. It just doesn't, I don't know. I love Looking for Alaska too, but I also love Paper Towns. I don't know, maybe it's a tie. But I absolutely love this book. The movie, I gave it like, I don't know, I gave it like an A-, maybe. It was really good, but it was missing some components that literally would have made me cry overnight. But it was really good. I liked it all. I rated it on Goodreads. Obviously, I gave it a 5, but I didn't give like a whole like review because I didn't have words for it. But now I do, so I'm saying it all right now. Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Goodreads, Raquel Vaughn. You guys can follow me on Instagram. You guys can also follow me on TikTok, Raquel Reads. Go follow me on TikTok. I make little TikTok videos of books and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys are having a great time reading and just hunkering down at home because of quarantine. I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. Yeah. All right, bye guys. Happy reading.